Hi, I'm Sharit Thurow, and welcome to Search Engine Friendly Websites. What exactly is a search engine friendly website? It's not what you might think it is. A lot of people believe that a search engine friendly website is a website that's built primarily for top search engine positions. And even though this is a common belief, it's not exactly true. In reality, a search engine friendly website is a website that's built for people who build search engines. And that's important to remember. People, searchers, and search engines. In this presentation, in this video, I will cover 9 important principles to building a search engine friendly website. And if you follow all 9 of these principles, not only will you have a findable website, you'll also have a profitable website that builds a positive user experience over time. I'm Sherry, and we're going to talk about search engine friendly website design. This presentation is not based on my personal preferences about what I think a design should be and shouldn't be. Rather, it's based on data. I've been doing this, since 1995. And I've been able to look at web analytics data since then and search analytics data since then. And I've been able to see the types of sites that search engines index well and the types of sites that don't. The types of pages that do well in search engines and the types of pages that don't. Now I'm working on the types of social media pages that do well and the types of pages that don't. And that's what this presentation is based on. And I'm going to show a lot of screenshots in this presentation, and some of them, if you go to the website, you might not see them anymore, but that really isn't the point. The point is to understand 9 principles, and I'm going to talk about 9 things that you all need to remember about search engine friendly design. And if you remember all 9 of these things and implement them on your website, you really shouldn't have problems with the search engines, and you shouldn't have problems with searchers either. So what we're going to talk about first is what search engine friendly design is and what it isn't, because there's a lot of myths and misconceptions surrounding this topic. Then we'll go over the SEO essentials, text component, link component, popularity component. We're not going to have time to do behavior component, but just know it is something that you should think about. And the last thing we're going to look at is home pages. So some good pages and some bad home pages. And hopefully I've selected screenshots from a number of industries so you can use them on your own website. But first, a quiz. Matt, do you want to do the quiz? Or I'm quizzing them.
Good.
All right, we'll quiz Matt later. How many of you think this page is search engine friendly? How many of you don't think this page is search engine friendly? Okay, that's the majority of the audience. Well, this is the Art Institute of Chicago. Just so you know, I'm from right outside of Chicago, and this is all graphic images. So if we take the graphic images off the page, it says Art Institute of Chicago, School of the Art Institute of Chicago, and the Art Institute of Chicago. What is the Art Institute of Chicago? It's a museum. Where's the word museum? Not very search engine friendly. How many of you think this is search engine friendly? How many of you don't think this is search engine friendly? Okay, we're going to come back to this, so I'm not going to give you the answer to it quite yet. What about this page, Le Bernardin? Search engine friendly? Yeah, I heard a moan, and Matt's being a smart aleck. Not search engine friendly. Okay, what about this one? It has text on the page. How many of you think this is search engine friendly? How many of you don't? Very good. This is all in Flash. Search engines can index Flash and they can follow the links in Flash, but what is the French Laundry? It's a restaurant. Where's the word restaurant on this page? If you're going to optimize your site for restaurant, you got to put it in the Flash as well. So very good. We got to give away prizes. How many of you think this is search engine friendly? How many of you don't think this is search engine friendly? Most of you thought this is search engine friendly. It's actually not search engine friendly. It's not even user friendly. Okay, first of all, this is a big honkin' Flash movie, and guess what? People tend to ignore that. Are the most important sections of this website highlights, news, and events? Well, that's what's being communicated to a search engine. What do you think is the most important thing on this website? Their products and their services. So they've just communicated the wrong thing to the search engines and to searchers. What about Mayo Clinic? How many of you think this is a search engine friendly website? How many of you don't? 50-50. This is probably one of the best websites I have ever seen. It is architected to near perfection. So for those of you who have publisher sites, this is a very good website to model. Okay, how about this site? How many of you think this page is search engine friendly? How many of you don't? This is an example of search engine spam. And this is actually a very good example of search engine spam. If you dig a little more into this site, you'll see that there's pages for correction degrees. So there's different pages optimized for different keyword phrases. And this, even though this is a university website, it actually got banned because hey, these are good looking pages. I'm not going to deny that. But search engine friendly design is something you can't necessarily determine just by looking at a page. So let's go into what it is and is not. So number one, search engine friendly design is not a page that's designed primarily for top search engine positions. Because if this definition were true, this is a type of web page that would generate thousands and millions of dollars worth of sales. And I am a designer. I can make this look hot. But this is a page that search engines don't want. In fact, I got this from one of my colleagues at Yahoo, and this is a site that actually got banned, even though it was made to look beautiful. I don't have the beautiful version, I'm sorry. In other words, search engine friendly design is not designing for searchers only. It's not only designing for search engines only, it's designing for both. So in other words, search engine friendly design is a user-friendly website design that can easily be found on the commercial web search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing, human-based search engines such as web directories or niche directories, and industry-related websites. Because the fact is that Google, Yahoo, and Bing are not going to spend thousands of millions of dollars on your products and services. Your target audience will. So whenever you design a website, first and foremost, you design for your users, always. But understand that the number one way that people locate and discover new information is via the commercial web search engines. So you have to accommodate the web search engines in your web design. And that brings me to my first major point. How you place words, graphic images, and multimedia on your web pages communicates to both search engines and to users what you think is important. Text at the top of the page is more important than text at the bottom of the page. Text in the center column is more important than text in the right column. And for those of you who are programmers, you can't trick the search engines. They know how to do all the CSS or the cascading style sheet tricks. Now here's something that a lot of people don't know. Even if you have a number one position in Google, there's only a 12% probability that your site's going to be revisited. So if you don't make your content easy to find, it's very unlikely that people are going to find it. So I'm going to ask you to remember 9 things, and these are the first of the 9 things I want you to remember. 5 rules of web design, and I know they seem stupid because what I get all the time, especially when I train a tech team, is the FU, Sherry. Look, it's like this. And I'm like, okay, I'm over it, guys. You want me to F off? That's fine. These are the 5 rules of web design. You need to follow them. And the thing about them is they're so easy and they're so stupid. That's why they're so easy to overlook. Easy to read, easy to navigate, easy to find, consistency, and quick to download. What do these mean? Easy to read. People scan before they read. And once they find their keywords, they tend not to look any further. And if they can't find their keywords very quickly, they tend to abandon your web pages. Is the content legible? Does your target audience understand it? And does the content make sense in a search listing? Because your search listings, the content, the titles, and the descriptions all come from your website. So easy to read is really important. So number 1, let's look at this. Is this text easy to read or easy to scan? No, it's because an idiot SEO did it, that's why. All right, let's take the underlines off it. Let's make sure it's a little easier to read. Is it still easy to read? Not really. And then there's a brilliant SEO. Let's take them all off. What is this now? It's search engine spam. And this is really important to remember. Make sure your clickable elements and your non-clickable elements do not look the same, because to a search engine spider, it looks like you're trying to hide something. And another thing that people don't do is they don't mind sweep. I don't know if you've ever heard of that phrase, mind sweeping. They don't take their mouse and go all over a web page to see what it is and is not clickable. And if you do it, you're actually irritating your users. And the only users that like to minesweep are kids. So if you're designing a children's website, minesweeping, good. If you're designing anything other than a children's website, minesweeping, bad. And also it's search engine spam. Okay, let's look at site navigation. Site navigation should be easy to read. Which one of these is easier to read, A or B? B, of course. Okay, this is a brilliant search engine marketer, and I'm using brilliant with every ounce of sarcasm that I can muster. What is the difference between a Disney vacation and a California vacation? Isn't Disneyland in California? People think like that. So even though you're trying to get all the keywords into a site navigation, it actually doesn't make it more search engine friendly. It makes it less. Actually, this is a form of keyword stuffing. Okay, Matt.
Uh-oh.
Matt's gonna join us now. Come on, dude. Easy to understand, right? I'm gonna show you something I saw on a website last week, and you're gonna tell me what it means. Ready?
Yeah. No, I can't say that in polite company. No sons of Barry.
Sit down. What's an SOB? On a medical website, it means shortness of breath. What if you saw this in a navigation label? What does it mean? This is actually a navigation label on an entertainment website that has nothing to do with the adult industry. And this leads me to a very important corollary. It has to be understandable by users. Use the user's language in navigation. So, easy to navigate, answers the questions, where am I, where can I go, and how can I get there? Where am I is really important because people don't land on your home page when they come in from a search engine. In fact, over 60% of people tend to go to a content page in the middle of your site. So you have to be able to establish where people are. And we're going to get to this too. Where can I go and how can I get there? Which means your links should look scannable, clickable, and distinguishable. Okay. A, B, or C, which one looks the most scannable, clickable, and distinguishable? C. B is okay as long as you don't use that shade of blue on any other place on your website. Ideally, you don't want your navigational elements to look like your main content. So what's wrong with this navigation? This is from an actual website I work on. And I haven't convinced them to change it, so that's why they're in the presentation. Home, about us, solutions, and successes. Well, first of all, is the most important thing to a user how wonderful you are. According to your marketing department and boss, maybe so, but according to your users, no. About us is rarely to be used as a second navigation label. The problem is it's black text on a white background. And even if they put a vertical pipe in between, that would have made it far more user-friendly, but I would have changed the color of this. Another mistake they made is they auto-filled the search box. When you autofill a form element, you make it less likely that people are going to look at it. So guess what happened to this navigation scheme? It's completely ignored. So therefore, a navigation scheme like that isn't good. Might be search engine friendly, not user friendly. So now let's look at a footer. What's the difference between a Kailua vacation rental and a Kailua luxury rental? And I used to live in Hawaii. I used to teach at the university for 4 years. What's the difference between a Wailea luxury rental? Nothing. These are all done for search engine visibility and they all lead to doorway pages. Are these distinguishable and are they scannable? No. So not good for search engines. This is an example of keyword stuffing. Not good for users. In fact, the number one reason that people switch to competitor sites is that a site's difficult to navigate. So easy to find is the third rule. Now, easy to find has two meanings, internally and externally. Externally, your site should be easy to find on the web search engines, on your niche directories, on blogs and news sites, if this is the type of marketing you do. And if you're a restaurant, a physician, or that type of service, should be easy to find on a local listing. And the idea is to make it as easy as possible to get people directly to the page they want. So if somebody types in National Cancer Institute, they want to see that, and they want to go directly to the home page. But search engines don't always get it right. So you have to provide links to desired content. And this is called information scent, S-C-E-N-T, or the scent of information. And how many of you have heard of that 3-click rule? Okay, well, it's bogus. It's been bogus for, gosh, about 10 years now. People will actually click up to 25 times if they believe that the scent of information is strong. So give up the 3-click rule. It'll make your designs far more search engine friendly. And even Jacob Nielsen found the same thing. People don't mind clicking through multiple pages as long as the information scent gets stronger. The next thing to remember is text at the top of the page is considered more important than text at the bottom of the page. And if you don't let people know what's on that page, they're going to leave. So here's an example. How many of you have an FAQ section on your site? This is how you don't do it. Do not do question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Because where's the information sent on this page? What if there are 16 questions on this page? People don't know that this information is available. So the best thing to do is to put text links at the top of the page. And this is really good for search engines because here's the text at the top of the page, it links here. Here's text here, here's text here, here's text here, here's text here. And this isn't only good for FAQs pages, it's actually good for pages that are long. So here's something that's both user-friendly and search engine-friendly, something to remember. And if people don't see these things above the fold, they tend to abandon your site. And that's when you only have a 12% chance of getting them to come back. And information architect Peter Morville said, findability precedes usability on the web. You can't use what you can't find. I think it's very interesting that people constantly say content is king, and maybe 10 years ago I said that too. But findability is also king. Because you can have all the great content in the world, but if people can't find it, how good is that content? So a well-designed navigation establishes trust, credibility, and everything else. Well, so does consistency in layout and design. By layout, I'm referring to the allocation of screen real estate, the use of white space. By design, I'm referring to the use of fonts and typefaces and colors. Colors are really important. And also labeling. Are your labels consistent? How many people have a sign-in or seen a page that has a sign-in in my account? Well, don't you, in order to get to your account, don't you have to sign in? So which one do people click on? And when people bounce back and forth in between navigation labels, it means they're confused and they're less likely to convert. So you don't want that. The last rule of web design is quick to download, and there's two different meanings of that. Actual download time and perceived download time. Search engines measure actual download time, and they're more referring to server speed, but what's more important to searchers is perceived download time. If people get what they want on a web page, even if it takes 25 clicks, they perceive download time as faster than it really is. And if people don't get what they expect, they perceive download time as longer than it really is. And this will be a downloadable presentation, so the link is available there. And download time isn't as important to searchers. Actual download time isn't as important to searchers as one might think. And interestingly, Nielsen and Whittington found that men find download time to be a bigger priority than women, and women find navigation to be more important than download time. So that was an interesting tidbit. So remember these 5 rules. Easy to read, easy to navigate, easy to find, consistent layout design, and quick to download, because they're not mutually exclusive. You can have a #1 position on Google, Yahoo, Bing for your most important keywords, but if you're not following these 5 rules of web design, people might click, they won't convert, they won't come back, and they also won't link to your site. So easy to find, that's what that means. A little more detail all on one slide. But in order to make your site easy to find in the search engines, you need to understand how search engines work. And if I had to pick a slide, and I've had the same slide for years, if I had to pick the most important slide in this presentation, this is it. Search engines, index text, follow links, measure popularity. Text, links, popularity. And of course, they try to accommodate searcher behaviors, or that's why they try to make their results more relevant year after year. All search engines index text and follow links. This is something that hasn't changed in the search engine since the 90s. It's not about to change now. It's not going to change in the next 50 years. So in order to make your site search engine friendly, you have to put text on the pages that the search engines can index, and you have to give them access to that text. And that's why you have to bring in an SEO early in the design process. Because if you don't, how many people are going to redesign a website after an SEO tells you, oh, you have to change the navigation, or, oh, you have to change the layout? So bring an SEO in. They will help you save a lot of money. These are the other 4 things I ask you to remember. These are the 4 building blocks of search engine optimization. You have to use the words and phrases that people type into search engines, and that page has to be somewhat focused on that text. Search engines don't use keyword density anymore, but your users are looking for those words. They don't see them, they leave. You have to give search engines user-friendly access to that text, and we're going to go into the different types of navigation schemes. Think of number 3 as validity. Link development is that objective third parties validate what you say about your own content. And if that matches number 1 and number 2, that's when a site gets long-term search engine visibility. And searcher goals and behaviors. That's what search engines are trying to accommodate at all times. People ask me which one's more important. They are all equally important. The sites that perform best accommodate all 4 of these things and the 5 rules of web design. So let's look at some pages. What kind of text? That's what I ask people all the time. What kind of software do you sell? I sell accounting software. Well, what kind of accounting software do you sell? Well, I sell income tax accounting software. Okay, income tax accounting software is different from payroll accounting software. And then where are you going to put these on the page? And I'm going to show you an example of this, but this is something to remember, is primary versus secondary text. Primary text is text that all search engines read and use to determine relevancy. That's the HTML title tag, the visible body copy, which is the copy that you can copy and paste into Notepad, text at the top of the page, and text in and around text links. Things that some search engines read and use to determine relevancy are meta tags, alternative text, and domain and file names. Meta tag content is important for videos. For those of you who do video or podcast optimization, your meta tag content will make or break a ranking. Alternative text is text that's placed inside graphic images. Alternative text does not matter for a text-based web document like an HTML file. But if you want to rank for image search, that alternative text will make or break a ranking. And domain and file names are important for what's called navigational searches. So when a person wants to go directly to your website, for example, for National Cancer Institute, that's when the file name's really, really important. So I love showing this web page because I think it's butt ugly. And I cannot even tell you why I dislike it. The main reason I dislike it is because the owner thinks that teal is a good color for a concrete website. But there's a reason I picked this page, because who cares what I think? Am I this website's target audience? No. This page happens to be very search engine friendly, and thank goodness it's since been redesigned, but let's look at why it's search engine friendly. Here at the top of the page, we can see that they've used stake pullers for nail stakes and stake pins. They got the singular and the plural form of a keyword. URL is very straightforward, stakepullers.html. Breadcrumb links, remember what I said, text in anchor text and text next to anchor text. They have stake pullers next here, next to anchor text. Very important for the search engines. It's an H1, heading 1, H2, and they have an introductory paragraph. And if you scroll a little bit down the page, they have captions, and captions are considered primary text. So for those of you that use images on your web pages that aren't navigation, people's eyes naturally go to captions. So add captions to your website. Use keywords if you can. So even though I think this page is butt ugly, it does everything right for the search engines. So that's how you have to think about text. Make sure you use them. Don't use the term SOB unless you're referring to shortness of breath. Remember to focus your energies on primary text because that's what's going to make or break a search engine ranking. If you have time, focus on secondary text. If videos are important, concentrate on meta tags. If images are important, then take the time and do alternative text. Make sure your keywords are prominent on the pages. And remember, the first text a search engine sees is what they're going to consider the most important. That's what the Rambus site did incorrectly. They presented news and events when that's not the most important thing to users. And use keywords frequently enough on your pages so that the page does appear focused, but don't overdo it. Next is the link component, which is giving search engines access to content. And the fact is some site navigation schemes are more search engine friendly than others. And what I have up here is in order to most search engine friendly to least search engine friendly. Text links are the most search engine friendly as long as you don't put any funky JavaScript or DHTML on it. For the most part, do any of you use Dreamweaver? The Dreamweaver stuff is pretty much search engine friendly. Navigation buttons and image maps, they're both graphic images. The only difference is a navigation button is one image with one link, and an image map is one image with multiple links. And navigation buttons are slightly more search engine friendly than image maps. Menus are hit and miss. In fact, menus have a high error rate. And the most problematic one are flyout menus, which are the ones that go horizontally. In fact, I will not do a website with flyout menus. But the ones that tend to be least search engine friendly are the expanding and collapsing. And for those of you, by the way, I am a lousy salesperson. I hate doing sales. For those of you who do expanding and collapsing menus, just email me and I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. Let you know if search engines can crawl it. Drop-down menus are the most search engine friendly, and they're also the most user friendly. And those are the ones that go vertically. But you don't want to have a lot of links in a drop-down menu because what happens is then navigation will dominate the page as opposed to content, and it's not going to seem focused to the search engines or to users. And of course, Flash is least search engine friendly. So that leads me to a question. If a site navigation scheme is not search engine friendly, would you avoid using it in your design? Well, the answer to that is no, because remember, you design a website primarily for your users. And if users can complete their tasks and do what they want with Flash, give it to them, but give them one form of navigation. I love using this website as an example because it illustrates an image map beautifully. I'm from Illinois, so what am I going to click? I'm going to click the IL. You're from California, what are you going to click? You're going to CA. If you're from the country of Texas, you're going to click there. What if you're from Rhode Island? You're going to click here. And this is alphabetical, so this is really easy to scan, and these are all very clickable. But guess what this does? This is so search engine friendly. So not only did you provide something for users, you also provided an additional means of navigation for search engines. So I always tell people, have at least 2 forms of navigation on your site. 99 times out of 100, you're going to use some form of text links. You can use them as a navigation scheme. You can use locational breadcrumb links. Embedded text links provide the most context, and also a Wayfinder sitemap. I'm referring to a Wayfinder sitemap, not an XML sitemap, or a site index, which would be alphabetical. So let's go back to the Mayo Clinic website, again, which is one of the best websites I've ever seen. This is a text-based navigation, and this is a good text-based navigation because it contains important keywords. And these important keywords are not only used in the navigation, they're used up here in the locational breadcrumb links. You can see it up at the top. Okay, what's GERD? That would be a mistake. Whenever you use an abbreviation like SOB or GERD, you should spell it out. So, National Cancer Institute. This is for those of you who have press releases on your website. Now, what I like about this press release is if you scan it, your eyes naturally go to the embedded text link, which is fantastic. But up here, they have a sentence that uses the term lung cancer. And they have an entire section about lung cancer on their website, and they didn't even link to it. They link to it way at the bottom of the screen, and it says, for more information about lung cancer, please go to. What would have been a more search engine friendly way of doing this? Do people really type in http://cancer.gov/ blah, 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 blah? No. Link the words lung cancer. It's far more search engine friendly than doing it this way. But it's very easy to scan. So for those of you that have press releases, link to the most important content on your website. But don't do this. Make sure your text is scannable. Sitemaps, a lot of people just put a big list of blue text links, but you can actually put annotations on sitemaps, and it's a really easy way to add keywords is to start annotating things. They have an introductory paragraph, and they also didn't annotate everything. They annotated the most important sections of the website. So for those of you that have a sitemap, I highly recommend that you do this. It'll make your site more search engine friendly, and it will also make it more user friendly. Now, there is something that people do that they shouldn't do, and they build doorway pages, and they do eventually get caught. And doorway pages and informational pages are not the same thing. So an informational page is a page that contains information that your users want to see. Now, I have a client, and I've had this client for 12 years, and he has this title tag that says, state-of-the-art software that is second to none. And I'm like, what kind of software do you sell? I sell accounting software. Can we put accounting software that is second to none? No. And I said, okay, what kind of accounting software do you have? Well, it's inventory. Can we put inventory accounting software? No, it's state-of-the-art software that is second to none. And I said, okay, until you change that, I'm going to use you in my presentations. So don't do that. Don't put all this sales hype in your title tags. You can put sales and marketing on your website because your sites have to sell. But the title tag's usually not a good place to do it. Search engines can access these pages, and they tend to have a simple layout. These are primarily the differences between an information page and a doorway page. We saw some examples of doorway pages right when I opened the presentation. The idea is you want the search engine and the user to see the same page. But let's look at some examples of doorway pages. A lot of people don't realize they have information pages on their website, they just don't optimize them properly. So here's from Land's End for those of you who are e-commerce sites. Land's End is one of the most user-friendly websites on the web. So their URL structure, their web address is horrendous, but their layout's pretty good. A category page is something that should be optimized for the plural form of a word, because when people want a list of items, they tend to type in the plural form of a word. So notice that this page is optimized for the plural form, and the product is optimized for a singular form of a word, and a product page is a search engine friendly page. So in addition to a spider-friendly navigation scheme, all pages should contain additional page interlinks. We saw examples of that. Breadcrumb links are vertical and related links are horizontal. You need both of these on a web page in order to make them search engine friendly. So let's go back to these pages. So we see top sellers, and underneath it in the lower right-hand corner, and that's where you put them. Your least important page interlinks, lower right-hand corner. The page interlinks on a product page are called alternatives. So in the event that this men's polo shirt's not available, maybe the size isn't available, maybe it's not quite the style or the color you wanted, what alternatives are you providing? So there's a photo with good alternative text, and here's a little tip. If you put alternative text in a small photo and a nice text link underneath it, then you link to a page, a product page with a larger photo that reinforces those keywords, you're actually making it more likely that your graphic images are going to show up in image search as well as shopping search. So doing this isn't just good for web pages, it's also good for graphic images as well. But look at the links. They all use men's shirts, polo shirts, shirts, and they all look clickable. And the right side of the page is the best place to put them. But if you have a designer, you have a boss who's anal retentive and they don't want to do it, you can also put it at the bottom of the screen. It's just that your users aren't going to see them. Here's an example, and this is another extremely well done website, is the Food Network. So here's an example of a recipe. It links to the show, it links to the episode. At the bottom of the page, it links to other recipes from this episode. They might not have anything to do with pork medallions, but they're definitely from the episode. But if you look at the related links, they definitely have pork examples. And it's really, really scannable, and they look clickable, and actually a bullet also makes things look more clickable. So let's look at Bon Appetit. We'll do a comparison. So it's about tater chips. 10 surprising healthy foods. Is that a good page interlink? Maybe. Meatless mains. What does that have to do with potato chips? Let's look at the bottom of the page. Chocolate dessert slideshow, 1-bite appetizers. I don't know any of you, I've never been able to eat one potato chip. So these are not good page interlinks. So if you need an example of a good website, Food Network, not so good website, Bon Appetit. Be careful of sites that claim to build information pages, because a lot of the times they're just building doorway pages. A hallway page is something I showed you in the beginning from the university website. A hallway page is a site map that leads to doorway pages. An envelope page is a page that's inside of a frame set. So the frame set's on the outside, and it's wrapped around a website. In fact, Giorgio Armani's website a long time ago did that and got themselves in trouble. These are all things you want to look out for. There's no such thing as instant link popularity. In fact, search engines usually can tell when a site gets 10,000 links. It's a spike in a graph. And if it's from a news site or it's from a social media site, that makes sense, because if you're in the news, you know, like Lindsay Lohan's always in the news, Lady Gaga's always in the news, makes sense. But if you're a help desk software site, it's going to look weird. There's no such thing as permanent positions, and there's also no such thing as guaranteed positions. All search engine positions fluctuate, and all of us can do a search engine query on Google right now, and we would all probably get different search results. So be careful of this. So link component summary. Have 2 forms of navigation on your site. One for your users, and make that primary, front and center. If your users like Flash, give them Flash. But always provide some form of text link navigation, and don't assume test. Don't trust on what your IT department says, because how many of your target audience has the same mental model as your tech team? They don't, so test. And usability counts, and that leads us to popularity. What is popularity? Number and quality of links pointing to a website. The first 2 things are link popularity. And the last 3 things are click-through popularity. In personalized search, click-through popularity is absolutely measured, and it absolutely affects rankings. These are factors that affect link development, substantial and unique content, of course, and how other websites are linked to your website. And this is how you want people to link to your website. Think text in anchor text, text next to anchor text. So this was a site that asked me to link to them, and it was photo search. And they asked me to put photo search stock photography. Well, because that's what they sell. Search stock photography, search royalty-free stock photography, search royalty-free stock photos, search, search, search. And they have a wonderful description. And people will change things, but for the most part, if they do something similar to what you give them, you're more likely to get what you need from link development. And the quality of link counts more than the quantity of link. I can usually outsurpass a website with less than 25 links if it's a good link. Website usability absolutely counts. Remember the 5 rules of web design: easy to navigate. Main problems that people experience: navigation difficulty and keyword focus. So if you don't have the right keywords and you're not putting them in the right places, you're not going to get good link development. And that brings me back to findability is also king. People will leave if content is good but hard to find, and they'll leave if content's easy to find, or if the site's easy to find and the content is not. So let's look at some home pages. Let's look at splash pages, because splash pages are not search engine friendly. Why? Text, links, popularity. What are the words on a splash page? Skip intro. So if I'm looking for help desk software, I'm going to type in the word skip intro onto a web page. That is how search engines are. So text is bad. Links. Are there any links on a splash page? There isn't very many, and they're usually not to the main sections of the site. And people tend to abandon sites that have a lot of flash on them. But let's look at some examples. So let's say a person's searching for Le Bernardin. Le Bernardin, just so you know, is a French restaurant in New York City. It's been voted one of the top restaurants. And a person here did a search for Le Bernardin and the menu. So that means they want to see the menu on the Le Bernardin pages. So what do you expect to see when you click on this link? Do you expect to see a menu? Or do you expect to see the beach? And look, skip intro. Now let's look at the top of the page. Le Bernardin, very good. 155 West 51st Street. Do you know what the number one thing people say in a usability test is? WTF. What the? And if they don't say it, they look at you like you're nuts. Who is going to type that into a search engine? What's the word that's missing from this page? French restaurant, seafood restaurant. They do have New York City in there. So very good and very bad. So what do you include on your home page? It's not always easy to get keyword-rich text on your home page, but you should get your most important keywords. If you're a restaurant, put restaurant. If you're a movie site, put movie. Whatever your most important keywords are, put it on your home page. Have a search engine-friendly navigation scheme, at least one. You know, the simplest thing to do is have a text-based footer and have a link to a sitemap in there. Now remember, on a home page, you do have to link to the most important sections of your site. You can't link to everything, but you should at least link to the most important sections. Now this site, I mean, it's oversimplified. You know, it's a very simple website, but they have followed the principles extremely well, and they use Flash. So they have an intro paragraph, and they've used dimension to cause people's eyes to look at it, because they have that little background that doesn't interfere with legibility. Now they did do something wrong. They put news and events. I don't know why sites do this. News and events is not the most important thing to your users if you're a product or a service site. So I would have switched the sides. What they did do is use photos well, because photos have millions of colors and they draw your eyes to them. And they didn't just put a link that says learn more, they also said try our tubing designer. So that has keywords in it. So they did a pretty good job there. They do have a visible link to a sitemap, and here they have micro catheters. So now it's time for another test. You can sit. Okay, I'm going to show you 3 designs, and one of them should look familiar. Here's design 1. Here's design 2. Same site. Here's design 3, and actually this has Flash on it. This has Flash here. Design 2, these rotate out, depending on what page you're looking at, actually, and what area of the country you're from. Okay, which home page do you think site visitors thought looked the best? How many of you think number 1? How many of you think number 2? And how many of you think number 3? Okay, number 3 got the most, then number 2, then number 1. Here's what we found in the usability test: 22%, 43%, and 35%. Very good. All right. Which home page resulted in people being able to complete their desired tasks? How many of you think number 1? How many of you think number 2? How many of you think number 3? Very good. Number 1, 0%. Number 2, 14%. Number 3, 100%. And now comes the third question. Which design did the website owner pick? How many think number one? You got it. Search engine friendly design isn't necessary. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have attractive web pages. And people actually perceive attractive web pages as more usable. But the thing is, search engine friendly web design is about tasks. Can people accomplish their goals on their website? If they want to go to a specific page, how easy did you make it for them to go to the specific page? If they couldn't go to the specific page, how can you fix that? And if they have an informational goal, are you giving them information pages? If they have a login or a transactional goal, are you providing that? And if you're not doing that, it doesn't matter how many number one positions you have, they're not going to do it. And believe it or not, if you make your site more user-friendly and you put your keywords in the right place, not only are you going to have rankings, you're going to have conversions. So here are the 9 things that I asked you to remember. The 5 rules of web design. Easy to read. Make sure your content is legible. Make sure it's scannable. Make sure it's understandable by your users. And don't use jargon. And here's something a lot of people don't know, is that people like to control their reading pace. And if you add animation to your content or your navigation, you're interfering with people's reading pace. And that makes them feel less in control of your website. So easy to read, I always put that at the top. If you can't read it, your users can't read it, it's not going to matter if it ranks or not. Easy to navigate means that people should know where they're at all times on your website. Because believe me, when they're coming in from a search engine, they're landing right smack in the middle of your website. And all links should be scannable, distinguishable, and look clickable. Easy to find internal and external. Your site should be easy to find on search engines, directory websites, and the niche websites. For those of you who are a manufacturing website, Thomas Register's a really good web directory. About.com has guides, and they have topical guides. They love it if you contribute content to them. So you can actually help things be more findable. And then once people arrive on your site, your content needs to be findable as well. Text at the top of the page, more important than text at the bottom of the page. Consistency in layout and design and labeling. The more consistent you are, the more easily people can find your content, and the more easily search engines can determine the aboutness of your web pages. And download time needs to be quick. And quick doesn't necessarily mean 2 seconds. Quick is from the perception of users. If they can find their desired content, download time is quick. If they can't find their desired content, download time is slow. 4 things that search engines do: text, links, popularity, and searcher behaviors. You have to use the words and phrases that people type into search queries. If somebody's looking for shortness of breath, they want to see the abbreviation SOB on your site. If people are looking for help desk software, they want to look for help desk software, not state-of-the-art software that is second to none. And there's a test that I use. It's a usability test, and everybody in this room can do this test. It's a great test. It's called the 5-second usability test. And what you do is you don't tell people you're given the 5-second usability test, or they go like this because they're all ready. You show a user a web page for 5 seconds, and then you take it away, and then you ask them to write down everything they remember about that web page. And if they don't write down your most important keywords, then that means the content isn't focused to them above the fold. So do this on 10 of your users. Don't let your tech team do it, because tech team people aren't objective about their own web designs. But 5-second usability test. It's on user interface engineering. That's a really good test. You have to give search engines access to your content. So that comes through your site navigation scheme and page interlinking. So consider how you're going to navigate, and always have some form of text link navigation. And remember, need vertical as well as horizontal page interlinks. All sites, even the smaller ones, should probably have locational breadcrumb links. That's a form of vertical. Horizontal, related. This recipe is related to this recipe. In the event that this product isn't available, you can buy this product. If you're buying a computer mouse, you could probably want a computer mouse pad. That something that simple will make your site more search engine friendly. You do those two things, your link development's going to be easier. Because think of link development as validation. Objective third parties are saying the same or similar things about your own website. And you have those three things in place, it's very difficult for your competitors to beat your site. And the last thing is accommodating searcher behaviors. There's three types of searcher behaviors: navigational, transactional, and informational. And I have that in When Search Meets Web Usability, and I'm more than happy to talk about it when we get to questions and answers, which we will do very shortly. And I wanted to last leave you with this, that don't design only for search engines, design for people who use search engines. Because when you understand searchers' goals and searchers' behaviors, and you understand how search engines work, that's when you have a search engine-friendly website, and that's when you have the highest return on investment. Thank you for joining us today, and remember these 9 principles: easy to read, easy to navigate, easy to find, consistent in layout design, and quick to download. Also remember the 4 building blocks of search engine optimization: keyword-focused text, giving search engines access to that text, link development, and always, always, always accommodate searcher behaviors. Thanks again for joining us, everyone.